Hi everyone, it's Doris Colgate, that's me, and Steve Colgate doing our Dockside Chats with Steve. So I'm joining him today because some of the escapades that we're going to talk about that are going to be in our book, our memoirs, which hopefully will come out in April, involve both of us. And they're pretty interesting little stories. So I wasn't married to Steve very long before I realized that whatever was going to happen, it was going to be wild. So here we are, just a little over a year married, and we're down in Nassau, and we have to move 10 boats. So Steve, how did you get me into this thing? I mean, so
No, well,
what happened?
you were willing, so a willing partner. Yes, we were at a resort on the tip of, well, not Nassau, opposite Nassau. It was on New Providence Island, and the government took it over, and so they had to find a new location. They decided, the guys that were partners in this in Chicago decided to work with a place called Out Island Inn in Great Exuma.
So let me just explain that the boats we had to move were the 10 Solings that were owned by a consortium, and Steve was running this program called Sailing Symposiums, which was a racing program.
Yes, and we had to move not only the 10 Solings, but we had to move a inboard power boat and a Boston whaler and get it all down there. And so we got this inter island tomato boat owned and run by a fellow named Woody, who was what they call a Conky Joe, a white Bahamian.
So sorry if we sound a little politically incorrect, but in those days,
that's what
they called them. But first, we had to paint these darn 10 boats. So
and we got to help
guess
her.
who had to paint? And we got that done.
We also got an English person who was, I think his name was Ian, and Ian helped us get the boats launched and ready for towing. And then we got the power boat onto the flat part of the tomato boat and started towing. We didn't get going as early as we wanted to in that day. It was in early December, short days, and we started in the afternoon and had about a 40-mile leg to the first island, and towed all these boats in a long line with many spinnaker sheets and whatever lines we could find, and they broke apart, and in daylight, thank God, and Ian and I jumped into the whaler. The whaler didn't have any steering, so it was a 40 horsepower outboard, and I would drape myself over the outboard and move it this way and that way, and
Looking backwards.
looking backwards, and he'd tell me where to go, and he'd connect the boats back up again. Then dusk falls, and we get on top of the. Woody had a big searchlight on top of his cabin top, so I got up from the cabin top, and I think you did too a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, we sat there all night long until we got super tired. But it was a pitch black night, no moon, no stars, no nothing. I mean, it was almost frightening, actually, but I can't say that I could ever be frightened around Steve, because that would be admitting something that he wouldn't want to hear. But so there we were, and the first 2 boats were tied by the great big hawser that somehow Woody had for using, I don't know, towing what, maybe other bigger boats, and they would keep the bows of the first 2 Solings in the water, and they were filling with water. So periodically, they had to go out and bail those 2 boats besides, but he doesn't want to remember that part, because I'm the one who said, that's not going to work, those lines are too darn heavy. But anyway, so we're up on top, pitch dark, we're getting tired.
And it breaks apart again. So now we're down, Ian and I are out on this whaler doing our thing, getting it all together again. And it was mainly because Woody wanted to, by 2 a.m., he wanted to get anchored. And And so he wanted to add a few RPM to his engines so it go a little bit faster. Well, that little bit faster was enough to break it apart again. But Woody, we anchored then, and Woody, we tried sleeping. He offered us his berth, right?
First he cooked us dinner. And I said, Woody, what are you making? I love to cook on boats, and so I wanted to just jump in and help. He said, I'm making chicken souse. Well, S-O-U-S-E, I believe that's how it's spelled, is a Bahamian dish. And so I looked at it, and it was chicken feet. And that was the chicken that was going in the chicken sauce. Nevertheless, it was tasty. But then he offered to give us one of his bunks. He had a big white German Shepherd, and we didn't know this, but that German Shepherd, we were being offered that dog's berth, and that dog had not been housebroken or boat broken. So where did we go to sleep, Steve?
We went into this into the power boat that was on the deck, and unfortunately it had a little keelson, and so it didn't rest straight, and so we'd get wrapped in spinnakers, and we just slide down to the leeward side of the power boat.
It's a good thing we were married.
Yeah, right. Good thing you were cozy. So that didn't work out as well as we'd like to have worked it out.
But we finally got underway again and got down to Out Island Inn or to a dock, and got the boats anchored, and
we went to the
sleep.
hotel.
We went to the hotel. Joe said, see ya. And then what happened the next morning?
Well, we went down to Woody to, I guess,
Woody.
I don't know, to pay him or something, and he didn't recognize us. Who are you? Well, Woody was an alcoholic, and he didn't drink a drop on a trip. But then when he got to where his destination was, he laid it on. He was just so hungover, he had no
idea who we were.
And unfortunately, we then heard that he had towed a bunch of CSY boats from Elizabeth Harbor up to Abaco a year later or so, and then returned to his harbor in Nassau, and he was found floating upside down, face down in Nassau Harbor. Again, he celebrated too much.
Yeah, loss of a good man.
Really a shame.
But this
really
was just
a shame.
one of our episodes. We've got so many more. But delivering 10 boats in the dark of night is not something I would like to do again.
Well, luckily you
I'll
don't have to.
stay with you, so it's okay. So see you next time. Bye.